Hello and welcome to our IELTS General Reading preparation video today. We have the identifying information question type for you today, and I hope you're ready because we're going to talk about this notorious question type today. A lot of students and test takers do not like this question type, and I agree it is probably one of the more difficult question types when it comes to the IELTS exam, but don't worry. Today I'm going to explain this for you, talk about some common pitfalls, and we'll go over strategy, tips and tricks, and of course, a step-by-step example where we will take our time and go over the explanation, the questions, and the results for our example. So let's get started. Now, let's just go over this question type. I'll fill you in on what to expect. And this question type is going to ask you to identify information, hence the title, and recognize various points in your passage. So it's very important that you do not call upon outside knowledge. So an example of this, let's say your passage is about cancer research. Let's say you're in section 3, you have more of an academic abstract sort of passage, and it's about cancer research. And let's just say that you are an expert, perhaps you're a medical student and you are studying cancer research and you have a lot of information about this topic. Now, if you have a question and it's asking for something about cancer research, if you have information outside of the passage that would lead you to answer that question, do not use it. You only want to use the information that is in the passage. This is very important. Also, keep in mind that answers are usually going to come in order for this question type, and we're going to use this to our advantage in our strategy in just a bit. And of course, as I'm sure you are waiting for, we have these notorious answers. So your answers are going to either be true, false, or not given. And a lot of students are fine with just true and false questions, but it's this not given option that really causes some problems. So before we even get into the strategy and our example, I just want to take a minute and show you 3 different examples of what a true answer would be, what a false would be, and what a not given would be. Okay, so we have some information here. Just to let you know from the beginning, it is going to be an example of a true question. So let's start with number 9. Let's say that this is our question and our passage section is this chart right here. So it says, previously, Barmount County city workers collected recycling refuse on Sundays. So this is our question. Of course, we would use our strategy to find our keywords, but I'll just tell you that the answer will be found right here. So we see on weekends, contrary to last year's schedule, pickup will no longer take place on Sundays. So it says no longer take place on Sundays. So we have this piece of information. We have located it in the passage. Now let's see if that contradicts or goes along with what we see here. Again, previously, Barmount County city workers collected recycling refuse on Sundays. Previously, yes, they did, because it says contrary to last year's schedule. Last year is previously, and so it would be true. Okay, now I'm going to show you an example of a false answer. So we have the same passage. We're sticking with the same theme here because this is something that you would see in the general reading. Number 11, failure to recycle the correct items will lead to an automatic fine. Again, we would go in order in this case. We would look for keywords, and we'll just show you the answer right now. It's going to be right here in this last sentence. And it says, if it is discovered that a resident has not properly recycled any of the above items, a fine may be issued. Now this is may, this is a probable possible situation. And number 11, it says it will lead to an automatic fine, so that is definite. And you see how these 2 pieces of information contradict each other. So in this case, it is definitely false. And lastly, we're going to look at a not given. So we're going to really look at the difference between a not given and a false. So let's look here. In this case, we have number 10, and it says, obtaining the Barmount County recycling card is free of charge. Excellent phrase here, free of charge. All right, so here in this case, we would look for a keyword. We could say Barmount County recycling card is a great keyword, and it would be in this section here because we see our keyword recycling card. Now, just to call your attention to the fact that these are most likely going to come in order. Our true answer was number 9, okay? So that was right here in this section. Our false answer was number 11, and that was included right here. Now, just for using my strategy and understanding how this specific question type works, I would assume that number 10 would be in this section here, because of course the original passage is longer than what we see on the screen. But of course I'm going to focus my attention here in the middle part. And again, with my keyword, I see recycling card, and nothing talks about the price. It doesn't talk about whether it's free or whether you have to pay something. So I'm just going to skim this quickly. And it says, if residents are unable to abide by the pickup times, they can request a recycling card in order to transport recycling refuse to the ecological island. Now, it doesn't say that it's free. It doesn't say that it costs something. So in this case, it is simply not given, because there is not information in our passage that contradicts number 10. So in that case, it's not given. A lot of students would do two things. One, they would waste time reading all of this and trying to figure out where this information is. And two, they may put false because they don't see it. So this is the big problem with this question type, really understanding and being confident in your answer not given. So like we said here, we followed the order, we looked for our keywords, we didn't find anything that contradicted or anything that confirmed this, so it was not given. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction on the 3 different answers. So now let's look at our guide. This is what we're going to follow today, and there are 2 important steps, but there's a lot more to it. So the first step is going to be reading the first statement, finding your keywords, and then directly scanning the passage. And we're doing this because as the answers are most likely going to come in order, we want to start with the first statement and understand where we are going to be in our passage. This will save us time for searching up and down in the passage trying to find the correct answer. So if we're able to do this, it will really help us. Now, when we read our statements, I want you to look out for absolute words or absolute terms. These are usually adverbs of frequency or other words such as mainly, all, only, and then of course we have our adverbs of frequency that describe how often something is done. These are tricky words because they can completely change a statement. So going back to our previous example, if I were to say something like, Barmount County city workers collect all trash on Sundays, that's a lot different than saying Barmount County city workers collect some plastic trash on Sundays, or Barmount County city workers occasionally work on weekends. So you see that these can really change the meaning of a word, and they come up quite often in the identifying information question. So once you've done your first statement, you've scanned and you've found the answer and you found the area of the passage where you should be looking, you're going to continue reading the statements, scanning, and answering. It's really best that you answer after each question, and it's helpful if you make some marks in your passage as to where you found the answer or where you think a potential answer could be, because again, since the answers come in order, it would be really helpful if you marked this for difficult questions later on. So for example, if you find question number 9 in a certain area of the passage, and then you find question 11 you're more than likely going to find question 10 in the middle. So this will help you for difficult questions. Before we look at our example, I just want to let you know that we'll be in section 1 today. So for the general reading, we have 3 different sections, and section 1 is known as the social survival section. So basically, this will contain information on everyday topics, anything you would need to be able to survive in an English-speaking country on your own. And you can expect things like advertisements, information, general information, clippings from newspapers, information from catalogs, anything that is just a general everyday topic. All right, great preparation work. Let's start with our step-by-step example. Welcome to our example today. We have our steps on the left-hand side, and for now we have our directions and our question statements on the right-hand side. So we're going to do it step by step, and our first step, like I said earlier, you're going to read the first question, okay? You're going to look for the keyword, and then you're going to scan for that and answer the question directly, okay? Now, we're going to do this together, but for simplicity, we have included all of the keywords and even potential synonyms for most of the verbs and some adjectives here. Now, this is just to make it simple for us today. We'll do it all together. But when you practice at home, start with the first sentence, look for the keywords, and then answer immediately. We'll do that in the next step. So also in terms of these synonyms, it is an optional step, but we're going to take our time today. We're going to explain all of this, and I figured it would be a good idea to just show you some synonyms for your own practice when you are at the test, and even as you progress in your practice and you become more confident, you should be doing this at a much quicker pace. So just keep that in mind. Today, we are doing this together and taking it a bit slow to make sure we understand everything. All right, before we even get into this, I just want to draw your attention to the instructions. Of course, we have our true, false, and not given. You're going to write these in your answer sheet. I would suggest writing in all caps, but it's not obligatory. And remember, true is if the statement agrees with the information, false if it contradicts, and not given if there is no information on it. Okay, so we have our 6 question statements, and I'm going to show you the underlined keywords just so that we can see it all at once. And I'm also going to show you some synonyms. Synonyms have been added because in the passage you may see similar words, synonyms, because if you see all of your keywords in the passage, it would be a bit too easy. So you're probably not going to see all of these words. So that's why having a good vocabulary base would always help you. So I'll just clear our screen and go ahead and show you the key words. And let's go through this together. So number 9, we see business basics is appropriate for beginners. So these are the main keywords. Some synonyms would be suitable. So suitable would be good for appropriate. A novice or novices is a good synonym for beginners, or starting out. That's a nice phrase for beginners. Number 10, bookkeeping has no practical component. So here we already see that we're looking at some sort of course, perhaps, a course on business, a course on bookkeeping, just to give us an idea of the theme. For no practical, I have empirical or hands-on, useful, and as an absolute term, which is what we talked about before, we have no, because the fact that it says no is a huge key word. If the passage says something like some or a bit, it would already contradict this information. Number 11, bookkeeping is intended for advanced students only. Again, we have another absolute word. So I would say higher level for advanced and absolute word only. So keep that in mind. Number 12, the new enterprise module can help your business become more profitable. So I have this keyword just because it looks like it's a type of course, just like bookkeeping and business basics. Help, I have assist. And more profitable, we could say successful or cost-effective. Social networking focuses on a specific website to help your business succeed. Here for specific, I have particular or distinct. And for succeed, I have triumph or prosper. And number 14, last one, the communication class involves speaking in front of an audience. So another class which is specific. I have speaking, I have giving a talk or a speech. An audience, we might see large groups or groups of people. Okay, so there we have it. Again, in the test and also on your own practice, I would encourage you to just start with number 9 and then immediately look for the answer. But I do want to call your attention to the fact that we're going to be in section 1. So this is going to be information about various courses, specific courses here. So these keywords will really help us look for things in the passage. Really use this to your advantage because these specific courses will make it easier to understand if this information is true, false, included in the passage or not. So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on to our next step. Step 2, we're going to scan for the first answer. So we're going to look at number 9 and then look at our passage to see if we can find the answer. Remember, it is in sequential order. So once you find the first answer, you'll be in a good spot to scan below and find the other answers. Of course, keep our synonyms in the back of your mind because, like I said, the words used in the statements will most likely not appear directly in the passage. That would just be a bit too easy. So I'll scroll down here, okay, and we're just going to focus on number 9 for now. So business basics, appropriate for beginners. And again, we see this is about community education. I'll just scroll down here. And right in the beginning, we see our business basics. Lucky us. Okay, let's understand what the passage is telling us about it. We see gain foundation knowledge for employment in an accounts position with bookkeeping and business basics through to an intermediate level, suitable for anyone requiring knowledge from the ground up. Okay, and already I see ground up. We did not think of this synonym, but it's an excellent way to say right from the beginning. And really, this is the phrase that we should be looking for. Suitable for anyone requiring knowledge from the ground up, right from the beginning. This business basics is appropriate for beginners, absolutely. So the information in the passage confirms what we see here in our question statement. So let's look at our answer. And it is true. So this is exactly what we're talking about. Even though we did not have the synonym ground up, we still looked for synonyms and we still thought of different ways to say beginners. So that helped us. And of course, it is true. All right, so we started from the beginning. Let's go ahead to step 3 now and basically do that for the rest of our questions. We are going to keep reading the remaining statements, scanning the rest of the passage, and answer the remaining statements. And again, as we answer each statement, I'm going to just make a little mark in our passage, like a line or a dot. This will help us reference if we need to double check something. So this is really helpful if we have a difficult question. Now I will just scroll down for us so that we can see everything. Again, we said that number 9 was true, so I'm just going to go ahead and write that down for us. Okay, so now we are going to be looking at bookkeeping. And I'm going to scroll down here so we can see as much as possible. And remember, we said bookkeeping has no practical component. We had that absolute word no. So let's see what we find. So it says bookkeeping. This course will provide students with a comprehensive understanding and a great deal of hands-on experience. Okay, hands-on is the opposite of nothing practical. Hands-on is very practical. And so in this case, it is quite simply a contradiction because it has a great deal of this practical component. And so right away, we see that this is false. Wonderful. Okay, so just to keep a note, I'll say that number 10 was right here. Again, these keywords really help us, so I'll underline those as well. Okay, number 11, bookkeeping is intended for advanced students only. So I have the keyword. I see that bookkeeping is still in this area, So let's see. It says advanced in the question statement, and I do see advance here, but notice this trick. So we have the same word, but these are different meanings of the word advanced. First of all, one is advanced and one is advanced. So these are different things. These are advanced bookings. So these are bookings ahead of time. Here, this is advanced students, like the level. So the advanced level. In bookkeeping, we do not see anything about who this is intended for. We see that it will provide a comprehensive understanding. We see there's a lot of experience, but it doesn't say anything about beginner students or intermediate or advanced. And the next section goes directly to new enterprise module. So this is a perfect example of something that is not given. So I'm going to make sure I'm spelling everything correctly and write not given. Okay, so we have our first not given. Let's go ahead to number 12. But first, let's just clear our screen and make sure we can see everything. We see the last 3 questions. Since we have new enterprise module, I'm simply going to scroll down so that we can see everything here. Okay, now our keywords here were help your business become more profitable. So remember those synonyms, and let's see the passage. It says understand company structures, tax rates, deductions, employer obligations, profit. So we do have profit here, and loss statements, okay, GST and budgeting for tax. And that's all we see here. Again, here's a trick. We see profit and profitable. If someone is just scanning and skimming and hasn't really done the prep work, you might see profitable and profit and just hurry up and write true. Okay, maybe your time management isn't the best. Maybe you are quickly trying to get all the answers in and you have 2 minutes left, and you would get this wrong because, again, this is profitable. This is an adjective. Profit and loss statements, here it is a type of statement, but it doesn't mean that it's going to make your business profitable. It doesn't contradict this information, so it doesn't say that it's not going to make your business profitable, but it doesn't confirm it either. And so this is another example of not given, okay? Great. Now let's go to number 13, where we have social networking, and this was talking about a specific website to help your business succeed. So again, we'll just go down and we see social networking. It says broad overview, gives you the opportunity to analyze what technologies are available and how they can benefit your organization. So we didn't see specific. We did not see that when we were scanning for this information. Instead, we see broad. It's a broad overview. And the fact that broad is included and the fact that this information says something about technologies, so it's plural, these are 2 clues that it is not going to be specific. If we really understand this information, it shows that the course is not going to focus on just one specific website or one specific technology. It contradicts this information. And so we have false for number 13. This is tricky because a lot of students would put not given just because they don't really see anything about websites here. But you have to pay attention to the fact that it's broad, so this adjective here, and the fact that technologies is plural. All right, we have our last one already. Number 14, the communication class involves speaking in front of an audience. So remember, we were talking about large groups of people and giving a speech perhaps. And here we see, take the fear out of talking to large gatherings of people. This was one of our synonyms. Gain the public speaking experience that will empower you with better communication skills and confidence. Okay, so the phrase talking to large gatherings of people and gain the public speaking experience, these 2 phrases, they tell the potential participants reading this information that they will gain experience talking to large gatherings of people. So you see how it's going to involve in some way speaking in front of an audience. And so it would be true, since the information here is shown in this statement about communication. All right, so we have true, false, not given, false and true. It followed the order. We used our keywords, and our absolute terms were important as well. We also used our synonyms. See how these are tricky, especially this one about social networking. So always pay attention to your opposites, such as specific and broad, and the fact that technologies was plural. So let's clear our screen. It's the moment of truth. Let's show our answers, and they are correct. Excellent. And if you look here on the right-hand side, this is basically everything that we went through together. We got all of them correct by really focusing on our strategy, knowing what to look out for, common pitfalls of this question type. Excellent job. Use this strategy as you practice on your own. The more you practice, the more you'll just get the hang of it and you will fly through these. Excellent job. Let's wrap up. So I'm going to take you through some do's and don'ts. For the do's, remember that this is a bit different from our other videos in that you're reading the first statement, scanning, then looking for your answer, and then coming back to your second statement. So that's the best way to carry on. Continue in this way for this question type since the answers come in order. So this is especially helpful for not given. A lot of students start looking everywhere if they can't find an answer. And if you follow this strategy, it'll just be easier for you to see which information was included in the passage and which would be a not given. And that just goes along with our second point. Remember that these answers will most likely come in order, and use this piece of information to your advantage. Of course, you want to make marks as to where you found answers. Like I said, this will help you if you have to skip a difficult question and move on. Once you're done, you'll know exactly where to look for a difficult answer, and you'll know where to focus your attention. Things that you shouldn't do: please don't read the entire passage. Some of these Section 1 passages can be fun to read, they can be interesting, but we are not reading for pleasure, we're reading to get the best score possible. So do not read the entire passage. Once you're done with this, really move on to the next section or any other question that you need to answer. Then don't forget to underline your keywords and scan after you read each statement. And of course, like we have talked about in this video, do not confuse false and not given, and don't waste your time looking for something that is simply not in the passage. All right, great job today. It was not an easy question type, but you stuck through it, and I hope that this helped you in your IELTS preparation, and I hope that you continue to practice this question type and more, even other sections of the IELTS exam. And you can do that by visiting us at www.bestmytest.com/IELTS. We'll see you there, and I'll see you for the next lesson. Thanks. Have a nice day.